Who do you think you are?" The words hung in the air like poison. Sophia Lawrence looked up from her coffee cup, her green eyes meeting the fury in Diane Miller's face. The beautiful apartment that she had worked so hard for suddenly felt small, suffocating. Nathan, her husband of 8 months, sat between them, his face drained of color, saying nothing. As always, "I asked you a question, girl." Diane's voice cut through the Sunday morning quiet. "Who gave you permission to redecorate my son's kitchen?" Sophia took a slow breath, reminding herself that this was her home, purchased with her money, decorated with her taste, maintained with her effort. The new coffee maker that had triggered this latest outburst had been a small indulgence, something to make their mornings brighter. She hadn't realized it would become another battlefield. "Diane, I didn't think I needed permission to buy a coffee maker for our kitchen," Sophia replied, keeping her voice level despite the hammering in her chest. She caught her reflection in the polished granite countertop, long brown hair falling in waves around her shoulders, a face her colleagues described as determined yet approachable, now struggling to maintain composure. "Our kitchen? Our?" Diane laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. "Nathan grew up with my kitchen rules. He knows how a proper household should be run. Not this modern nonsense you keep bringing in." Sophia felt a familiar weight settling in her stomach. This scene had played out dozens of times since their wedding. Different triggers, same script. The apartment she had purchased downtown, the car she drove, the job she excelled at, all somehow affronts to Diane's sensibilities about what a proper wife should be and do. "Mom, it's just a coffee maker," Nathan finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "It makes good coffee." Diane turned to her son, her expression instantly softening. "Honey, I know you're trying to be supportive, but she's changing everything about you. Next thing, you'll forget all the values I raised you with." Sophia closed her eyes briefly. 3 years ago, she had been focusing solely on her career, climbing steadily through the corporate ranks at Reynolds Technology, becoming at 28 the youngest department head in the company's history. Romance hadn't been on her radar until that company mixer, where a mutual friend had introduced her to Nathan Miller with his kind eyes and easy smile. Their courtship had been a whirlwind. Nathan brought her breakfast in bed, wrote her sweet notes, planned thoughtful dates. His professional history had been spotty, 5 jobs in 3 years. But Sophia had admired what she thought was his courage to keep seeking his perfect fit. His devotion to his widowed mother had seemed charming, evidence of his good heart. How naive she had been. "Nathan, could you run to the store and get me my prescription? I forgot it yesterday," Diane asked, instantly transforming into a helpless, aging mother. Nathan stood immediately. "Of course, Mom. I'll go right now. Do you need anything else while I'm out? Maybe some proper coffee? The kind we always drink?" Diane suggested with a pointed look at the new machine. "I can drive you," Sophia offered, already knowing what the response would be. "Women shouldn't drive when there's a man available," Diane said, as if reciting from an ancient text. "It's not proper." Nathan was already reaching for his keys, avoiding Sophia's eyes. "I won't be long." As the door closed behind him, a heavy silence filled the apartment. Sophia busied herself cleaning the breakfast dishes, aware of Diane's eyes following her every move. The woman had arrived unannounced at 7:30 that morning, as she did most weekends, with some manufactured emergency requiring her son's immediate attention. "You know, when Nathan was growing up," Diane began, settling herself more comfortably at the kitchen island, "I taught him that a home needs a woman's touch, a proper woman's touch." "I'm sure you did," Sophia replied neutrally, wiping down the countertops. "He was such a good boy, always listening to his mother, always knowing I knew best." Diane sighed dramatically. "Then he met you at that company. You and your career." Sophia had heard variations of this speech countless times. According to Diane, women belonged at home, raising children, supporting their husbands. Working women were selfish, career women doubly so. The fact that Sophia held a leadership position was simply unfathomable to Diane. What Diane didn't know, what Nathan had begged Sophia to keep from his mother, was that Sophia's career paid for everything they had. The three-bedroom apartment in the elegant downtown building, the car Nathan drove, the furniture they sat on, even the fancy coffee maker that had sparked today's confrontation. Nathan's job at the local sports equipment store barely covered their groceries, yet his mother believed he was some kind of rising executive supporting his overly independent wife. "Did you know," Diane continued, picking at an invisible spot on the counter, "that Nathan was engaged before he met you? To a lovely girl from our church. She knew the importance of family, of tradition." This was new. Sophia looked up sharply. "No, he never mentioned that." "Of course he didn't," Diane smiled, satisfaction gleaming in her eyes. She would have made him the perfect wife, homemaker, willing to give him 6 or 7 children. "What happened?" Sophia asked despite herself. "She wanted to wait until they had a house. I told her they could live with me. I have plenty of room, but she insisted on their own place. So impractical. Nathan couldn't afford what she wanted on his own." The implication hung in the air. Unlike Sophia, who had bought their apartment without waiting for Nathan to provide. "Diane," Sophia set down her cleaning cloth carefully, "I understand you care about Nathan, but we're married now. We're building our own life together. Are you? Because it seems to me you're building a life and expecting him to fit into it." Diane's voice took on an edge. "Those fancy dinner parties with your work friends, that modern furniture, those business trips, is any of that what my son wants?" The truth was, Sophia didn't know anymore what Nathan wanted. When they were dating, he had seemed excited by her ambition, impressed by her accomplishments. He had talked about opening his own business someday, about them being a power couple. But since their wedding, since Diane had begun her campaign of daily interventions, Nathan had retreated into a passive role, deferring first to his mother, then reluctantly to Sophia, if pressed. "I think that's for Nathan and me to discuss," Sophia replied finally. "You think you're so much better than everyone, don't you? With your fancy job and your fancy apartment." Diane stood up, moving closer. "Let me tell you something, Miss Executive. My son needed a wife, not another job. He needed someone to support his dreams, not overshadow them with her own." Sophia felt heat rising to her cheeks. "I have supported Nathan in everything he's wanted to do. I encouraged him to take classes when he was interested in graphic design. I helped him network when he thought he wanted to try real estate. You emasculated him," Diane hissed, her face contorted with anger. "My son was a confident, strong man before he met you." Sophia stared at her, stunned by the venom. "That's not true." "No. Then why does he call me crying sometimes? Saying he feels like less of a man around you and your successful friends?" The revelation hit Sophia like a physical blow. Nathan called his mother crying about her? About their marriage? She thought about all the nights he had claimed to be working late, all the weekends spent helping his mother with endless household emergencies that somehow only occurred during their rare free time together. "He wouldn't," Sophia began. But even as she spoke, she knew it was exactly what Nathan would do. The man who couldn't stand up to his mother about a coffee maker would absolutely cry to her about his feelings rather than address them with his wife. "Oh, but he does." Diane pressed her advantage, moving closer until she was just inches from Sophia's face. "He tells me everything. Every little complaint, every way you make him feel small. You think you're so perfect, don't you? Miss Independent? Miss I don't need anyone." "That's enough," Sophia said quietly, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped the edge of the counter. "Who do you think you are?" Diane's voice rose. "Coming into my son's life, turning him against his mother, making him feel inadequate? I said that's enough." Sophia tried to step away, but Diane moved with her, backing her against the refrigerator. "You miserable freeloader! Pretending to be so successful while living off my son's hard work." Sophia almost laughed at the irony, but there was nothing funny about the hatred contorting Diane's features. "If you don't like how things are done in this family, our family, then maybe you should just leave. Get out. Go back to wherever you came from before you ruined my son's life." The apartment door opened, and Nathan walked in, carrying a small pharmacy bag. He froze at the tableau before him. His mother, red-faced and shouting, his wife cornered against the refrigerator. "Mom? What's going on?" he asked, his voice high with anxiety. "Your wife was just explaining how she thinks she can disrespect me in my own son's home," Diane said, instantly transforming her voice into a wounded whimper. "After everything I've done for you both." Nathan's eyes darted between them, sweat beading on his forehead. He set the pharmacy bag on the counter with a shaking hand. "I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," Sophia said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "Your mother believes this is your home, that I'm living off your generosity, and that I should leave if I don't want to follow her rules." Nathan paled further, a feat Sophia wouldn't have thought possible. "Mom? That's not… Don't stammer, Nathan," Diane cut him off. "Be a man. Tell her who makes the decisions in this household." Sophia looked at her husband, silently pleading with him to finally stand up, to acknowledge the truth, to be the partner she had thought she was marrying. For one brief moment, she saw conflict in his eyes, a flicker of the man she had fallen in love with. Then he looked away, staring at the floor. "Mom's just looking out for us, Sophia. She knows about these things, about family." Something broke inside Sophia then, a final thread of hope she hadn't even realized she was clinging to. She walked calmly to the bedroom, pulled a small overnight bag from the closet, and began placing essentials inside: toiletries, a change of clothes, her laptop. When she returned to the living room, Nathan and Diane were seated on the sofa, his arm around her shoulders as she dabbed at non-existent tears. "Sophia, where are you going?" Nathan asked, rising halfway before his mother tugged him back down. "I'm sleeping elsewhere tonight," Sophia said, surprising herself with how composed she sounded. "And you, Nathan, tell your mother the whole truth, about who bought this apartment, about who pays our bills, about who actually supports whom in this marriage." The door closed behind Sophia with a soft click that belied the earthquake happening inside her. Standing in the hallway of the luxury building she had purchased just 1 year earlier, her dream home, her sanctuary, she felt strangely calm. The numbness was a blessing. She knew the pain would come later. For now, she had decisions to make. Where to go, what to do, how to proceed with the shattered remains of what she had thought was a loving marriage. Her fingers moved automatically across her phone screen, calling the one person she knew would understand, without judgment. "Rachel? It's me. Can I stay at your place tonight?" The sound of her own voice surprised her. Steady, controlled, almost normal. Her college roommate and now fellow executive had always kept a guest room ready for friends in need. "No, I'm fine. Just marriage stuff. I'll explain when I get there." The drive to Rachel's suburban home gave Sophia time to think, the familiar movements of navigating traffic providing a comforting routine while her mind processed the morning's events. She had known things with Nathan were strained, had felt his growing distance over the past months, but she had attributed it to work stress, to the normal adjustments of married life. She had never imagined he was actively undermining their relationship, sharing their private struggles with his mother, painting himself as the victim of his wife's success. Rachel opened the door before Sophia could knock, her expression a mixture of concern and fierce protectiveness. "Whatever happened, he's wrong, and we hate him," she announced, pulling Sophia into a warm embrace. Despite everything, Sophia laughed. "Let me at least tell you what happened first." Over cups of strong tea, Rachel had never developed a taste for coffee. Sophia recounted the morning's confrontation, the months of interference, The years of subtle manipulation she had only now recognized for what they were. "He told her he was supporting me," Sophia said, still unable to fully process the deception. "All this time, he's been pretending to his mother that he's the breadwinner, that I'm some kind of trophy wife who doesn't really need to work." Rachel's expression darkened. "While you're carrying him financially and emotionally, that's beyond messed up, Soph. I knew Diane was traditional, but I never realized how deep it went, or how willing Nathan was to maintain her illusions at my expense." Sophia stared into her tea, watching the ripples form as her hand trembled slightly. What kind of relationship did we even have if he couldn't be honest about something so fundamental? "One built on quicksand," Rachel replied bluntly. "I never said anything because you seemed happy, but there were red flags from the beginning. Remember how he forgot to invite any of your work friends to your engagement party? Or how he always had some excuse when it was time to attend your company events?" Sophia did remember. She had made excuses for him each time. He was shy around her high-achieving colleagues. He felt intimidated by the corporate environment. He was simply tired after his own workday. She had bent over backwards to accommodate his insecurities, never realizing that behind them lay not just personal doubts, but an entire framework of beliefs that fundamentally devalued everything she was and did. "I feel so stupid," she whispered. 3 years together, and I never saw it." "Don't do that," Rachel said firmly. "This isn't about your intelligence or perception. Manipulative people are experts at hiding their true nature, especially from those who love them. And, from what you've told me, both Nathan and his mother are master manipulators." Sophia's phone buzzed with incoming messages. 17 texts from Nathan ranging from apologetic to accusatory. 3 missed calls from Diane's number. She silenced the device without reading beyond the previews. "What are you going to do?" Rachel asked after a moment of silence. "I don't know," Sophia admitted. "Part of me wants to go back, to try to make him understand how hurtful this has been, to see if there's anything left to salvage." She paused, considering. "But another part knows that if he hasn't stood up to his mother in 8 months of marriage, he never will. The real question," Rachel said gently, "is whether you can be happy with a man who's essentially married to his mother first and you second." The truth of those words settled heavily on Sophia's shoulders. She had been so busy trying to make the marriage work, trying to accommodate Diane's constant presence and Nathan's growing passivity, that she hadn't stopped to ask herself if this was truly the life she wanted, if this was the partnership she deserved. As evening fell, Sophia's phone continued to light up with messages. She finally read through them, watching the progression from Nathan's initial, "Please come home, we can talk about this," to, "Mom is really upset, you shouldn't have spoken to her that way," to, "I don't understand why you're being so difficult about this." Not once did he acknowledge the fundamental issue: his deception, his failure to stand by her, his choice to preserve his mother's illusions at the cost of his marriage's foundation. "You should try to get some sleep," Rachel suggested around 10 o'clock, showing her to the guest room. "Everything looks clearer in the morning." But sleep proved elusive. Sophia lay awake, staring at the unfamiliar ceiling, replaying moments from her relationship with Nathan, seeing them now through a different lens. The way he had always deferred major decisions until he had thought about it. Code, she now realized, for consulting his mother. His reluctance to discuss their financial future in concrete terms. His growing discomfort with her professional accomplishments. When her alarm chimed at 6:30, Sophia had made her decision. She would return to the apartment, her apartment, and have one final conversation with Nathan. She would lay everything on the table without anger or accusation, and see if there was any part of the man she had fallen in love with still willing to fight for their marriage. If not, she would begin the process of disentangling their lives. "Are you sure you don't want me to come with you?" Rachel asked, concern evident in her voice as she watched Sophia prepare to leave. "I'm sure. This is something I need to do myself." Sophia hugged her friend tightly. Thank you for being here, for listening. Always, Rachel promised. Call me immediately if anything feels wrong. And remember, you deserve someone who celebrates your success, not someone who's threatened by it. The morning traffic was light, and Sophia arrived at her building sooner than expected. The doorman greeted her with his usual friendly smile, giving no indication that anything was amiss. In the elevator, she rehearsed what she would say, trying to find words that were honest, but not cruel, direct, but not confrontational. The scene that greeted her when she opened her apartment door stopped her cold. Destruction. There was no other word for it. The beautiful cream-colored sofa she had carefully selected was slashed, its stuffing spilling out like grotesque snowdrifts on the hardwood floor. The curtains hung in tatters. Picture frames lay shattered, family photos torn to pieces. In the kitchen, cabinet doors stood open, plates and glasses reduced to dangerous shards scattered across countertops and floor tiles. Sophia stood frozen in the doorway, her mind struggling to process the devastation before her. This wasn't a burglary. Her laptop still sat on the desk. Her jewelry box appeared untouched in the bedroom beyond. This was rage made manifest, destruction for destruction's sake. "Nathan?" she called, her voice echoing in the unnatural silence. No response. Moving carefully through the wreckage, Sophia made her way to the bedroom. The mattress had been slashed like the sofa, her clothes pulled from the closet and strewn about, some cut to ribbons. Nathan's side of the closet was empty, his dresser drawers pulled out and vacant. On her pillow lay a single sheet of paper, the flowing handwriting immediately recognizable as Diane's. "This is what happens when you disrespect family. We've taken what belongs to Nathan. Expect to hear from our lawyer about the rest. A wife's place is supporting her husband, not humiliating him. You'll regret the day you ever met my son." Sophia sank to the floor amid the ruins of her belongings, the paper crumpling in her grip. The numbness that had protected her since yesterday evaporated, leaving raw pain in its wake, not just for the destruction of her home, but for the final confirmation that the man she had loved, had built a life with, had married, had allowed this to happen, had perhaps even participated. Her hands shook as she called Rachel, then the police. The responding officers were kind but not particularly hopeful about pressing charges. Yes, it was destruction of property, but as marital property in a shared residence, the legal waters were murky. They took photos, filed a report, recommended she change the locks and consult an attorney. "I've seen this before," the female officer told her quietly as her partner finished the report. "X takes the stuff they think is theirs, trashes what they can't take. It's about control, about punishment. He's not even my ex yet," Sophia said, the absurdity of the situation hitting her anew. "We had a fight yesterday." One fight. The officer's expression softened with understanding. Sometimes one fight is all it takes to reveal who someone really is. After the police left, Rachel arrived with reinforcements. 2 friends from their college days, both now successful in their own fields, both fiercely loyal. They helped Sophia clear the dangerous debris, salvage what could be saved, document the damage for insurance and legal purposes. "You're staying with me until we get this sorted," Rachel insisted, brooking no argument. "Dave and Michael will help move whatever you need." While the others worked, Sophia retreated to what remained of her home office, the one room that had largely escaped the destruction. Her legal documents were kept in a fireproof safe bolted to the floor of the closet, something Nathan had once teased her about as excessive caution. Now she was profoundly grateful for that caution. Inside the safe, everything remained intact. Birth certificate, passport, the deed to the apartment, car title, investment records, their marriage certificate, insurance policies. She spread them across her desk, creating piles. What was solely hers, what was in both their names, what would need to be addressed immediately. The deed to the apartment was in her name alone. She had purchased it before their marriage, and had never added Nathan to the title, despite his occasional hints that she should. The car was hers. The investment accounts were separate. Their only joint holding was a checking account they used for household expenses, into which they both deposited funds monthly. Though in recent months, Sophia realized with a fresh wave of anger, her deposits had covered nearly all their expenses as Nathan's contributions dwindled. Her hands stilled on the marriage certificate, the ornate lettering now seeming like a cruel joke. 8 months. They had been married, just 8 months. Not even a full year of sharing their lives before it had all imploded, revealing the rot at its foundation. Sophia's phone rang. An unknown number. She answered cautiously. "Mrs. Miller," a male voice inquired, formal and slightly aggressive. "This is Sophia Lawrence," she corrected automatically, having kept her maiden name professionally and increasingly using it in her personal life as well. "This is Gregory Watts, attorney at law. I'm calling on behalf of my clients, Nathan and Diane Miller." Of course, Diane had wasted no time securing legal representation, and of course she was positioning herself as an equal party in what should have been between husband and wife alone. "Mr. Watts, I've just filed a police report for extensive property damage to my apartment. If you're representing the perpetrators, I suggest you advise them that criminal charges may be forthcoming." There was a brief silence on the line. "My clients inform me that they removed only what rightfully belonged to Mr. Miller from the marital home." "Your clients," Sophia replied, her professional training keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart, "destroyed thousands of dollars worth of furniture, electronics, and personal belongings. The marital home is legally my property, purchased before the marriage, titled in my name alone. I have extensive photographic evidence of the damage, witness statements, and a police report. Now, if there's something specific you're calling about, please state it. Otherwise, I'll have my attorney contact you directly." Another pause. "Mrs. Miller, Ms. Lawrence," she corrected again, more firmly. "Ms. Lawrence," the attorney amended, his tone noticeably less confident. "My clients wish to discuss an equitable distribution of assets acquired during the marriage." "I'll have my attorney contact you," Sophia repeated, ending the call before the rage building inside her could erupt. She sat at her desk, surrounded by the paper trail of her life, and allowed herself one moment of pure grief for the future she had imagined. The children she and Nathan might have had, the home they might have built together, the partnership she had believed in so completely. Then she straightened her shoulders, pulled her laptop toward her, and began researching divorce attorneys. By evening, Sophia had spoken with 3 potential lawyers, scheduled consultations with 2, arranged for emergency lock replacement on her apartment, filed a preliminary insurance claim, and begun the process of removing Nathan from her financial accounts. She worked with mechanical efficiency, focusing on tasks rather than emotions, on solutions rather than pain. "You need to eat something," Rachel insisted, setting a plate beside Sophia's laptop, where she had set up a temporary workspace in Rachel's dining room. "And maybe sleep at some point. You've been going non-stop for hours." Sophia looked up, blinking as if emerging from a trance. "I just need to finish this inventory of damaged items for the insurance. It can wait until morning," Rachel said gently but firmly. "You're running on adrenaline and shock. When that wears off, you're going to crash hard. Better to get some food and rest now, on your own terms." Recognizing the wisdom in her friend's words, Sophia saved her work and closed the laptop. As they ate the simple pasta Rachel had prepared, her phone buzzed with a text from a number she didn't recognize. "I know what my son and I did was wrong. We need to talk, just the 2 of us. No Nathan. Please. Diane." Somehow she had obtained a new phone number to bypass Sophia's blocks. "Don't even think about it," Rachel warned, reading the message over Sophia's shoulder. "That woman is toxic and dangerous. Nothing good can come from meeting her." "I know," Sophia agreed, blocking this number too. "I have nothing to say to her." But as she tried again to sleep that night, Diane's message echoed in her mind. What could possibly have prompted this apparent change of heart? What new manipulation was she planning? And where was Nathan in all this? Morning light filtered through unfamiliar curtains as Sophia opened her eyes in Rachel's guest room. For one blissful moment, her mind was empty, peaceful. Then, the memories flooded back. The fight, the destruction, the calls with lawyers, the text from Diane. She reached for her phone, expecting more messages, more demands, more chaos. Instead, there was just one text, sent at 3:27 in the morning, from Nathan's number. "I never meant for any of this to happen. I'm sorry." 7 words. 7 inadequate words to address the devastation of both her home and her marriage. Sophia stared at the message, trying to decipher what lay behind it. Genuine remorse? Attempted manipulation? A message sent under Diane's watchful eye? There was no way to know, and Sophia was surprised to realize she no longer cared enough to find out. That indifference felt like progress, like healing. She showered and dressed in clothes Rachel had lent her, her own wardrobe largely destroyed or still at the apartment, and headed to the kitchen where the smell of fresh coffee provided a small comfort. "I called in sick for you yesterday," Rachel said, sliding a mug across the counter, "but I figured you'd want to go in today. Keeping busy helps." Sophia nodded gratefully. Work had always been her sanctuary, the place where she felt most competent, most herself. "Thanks. I have that meeting with the Atlanta team this morning. Can't miss it. Your lawyer called while you were in the shower. Stephanie Kwan? She can see you at 5 today if that works." Perfect. Sophia had selected Stephanie specifically for her reputation as both compassionate and fierce. A family law attorney known for protecting clients from manipulative partners and their families. "I'll head there straight from work." The day passed in a blur of meetings, presentations, and concerned colleagues noticing her borrowed clothing and distracted manner. Sophia shared minimal details, going through some personal stuff, but I'm handling it, and threw herself into her work with redoubled focus. The familiar challenges of managing her team and navigating corporate politics felt almost comforting in their normalcy, a reminder that part of her life remained intact and under her control. At 5 o'clock sharp, Sophia sat in Stephanie Kwan's elegantly appointed office, recounting the events of the past 2 days. The attorney listened intently, taking notes, occasionally asking for clarification. "So, to summarize," Stephanie said when Sophia finished, "you purchased the apartment before marriage. It's titled solely in your name, and you've been the primary financial contributor throughout the relationship. Your husband has been unemployed or underemployed for significant periods, and his mother appears to be a substantial negative influence. Now they've damaged your property and are making vague legal threats about equitable distribution of assets." "That's the situation," Sophia confirmed. Stephanie leaned forward, her expression both kind and determined. "Ms. Lawrence, based on what you've shared, this should be a relatively straightforward divorce from a legal perspective. New York is an equitable distribution state, but given the short duration of the marriage and the fact that most assets were acquired before marriage, your husband has limited claim to them. The property damage complicates things, but also strengthens your position. What about his mother's involvement? She seems to be driving a lot of this. Legally, she has no standing whatsoever in your divorce. She's not a party to your marriage contract. However," Stephanie's expression grew more serious. "From a practical perspective, she's clearly a disruptive influence, potentially encouraging destructive and even criminal behavior." The attorney opened a drawer and pulled out several forms. "I recommend we proceed with an emergency order of protection, given the property destruction. This would legally bar both your husband and, if we can demonstrate her involvement, his mother from entering your property or contacting you directly." "Is that necessary?" Sophia asked, the reality of her situation hitting her anew. "I mean, Nathan's text seemed apologetic." "Ms. Lawrence," Stephanie said gently, "in my 20 years of practice, I've seen too many cases where property destruction escalates to personal violence. I'm not saying that will happen here, but the level of rage evidenced by the damage to your apartment is concerning. A protection order is a precaution I strongly recommend." Sophia nodded, signing where indicated. As Stephanie explained next steps, a plan began taking shape. Legal filings tomorrow, a locksmith to change the locks again, this time with reinforced door frames, security cameras for the apartment, a formal separation agreement followed by divorce papers. "What about my personal belongings still at the apartment?" Sophia asked. "I need clothes, documents, my work materials." "We'll arrange for a police escort for you to retrieve essential items," Stephanie assured her. "In fact, we can schedule that for tomorrow afternoon if that works for you." By the time Sophia left the attorney's office, night had fallen over the city. She felt simultaneously exhausted and lighter, as if having a concrete plan had lifted some of the uncertainty weighing her down. She opted to walk a few blocks before calling a ride-share, needing the cool evening air to clear her head. Her phone rang. Another unknown number. Against her better judgment, Sophia answered. "Hello? Is this Sophia Lawrence?" An unfamiliar male voice, tentative, professional. "Yes? Who's calling?" "Ms. Lawrence, this is Officer Daniel Reyes with the NYPD. There's been an incident at your residence. The security desk called us when they heard shouting and what sounded like more property damage." Sophia's heart raced. "Is everyone all right? Was anyone hurt?" "No injuries, ma'am. We've detained 2 individuals attempting to remove property from your apartment. They claim to be your mother-in-law and husband." Of course, they had returned. "Officer Reyes, I filed a report yesterday about extensive property damage caused by those same individuals. I'm in the process of obtaining a protection order." "That explains it," the officer replied. "They were quite insistent they had a right to be there. The gentleman seemed under duress. The older woman was doing most of the talking, claiming they were retrieving their possessions. Neither of them lives there," Sophia stated firmly. "The apartment is solely in my name. I'm the only one on the lease with the building management." "Understood. How would you like to proceed? We can arrest them for trespassing and attempted burglary if you wish to press charges." Sophia closed her eyes, imagining Nathan in handcuffs, Diane's outrage, the messy public spectacle that would follow. As tempting as it was to see immediate consequences for their actions, she knew a legal battle was wiser than an emotional one. "I'd prefer not to press criminal charges at this time," she decided, "but I would like a formal trespass warning issued, and I'll have my attorney follow up with the protection order first thing tomorrow." "We can do that," Officer Reyes confirmed. "Would you like us to remain on site until you arrive? I'm actually staying elsewhere tonight. If you could just ensure they leave the premises and don't return, I'd appreciate it." After ending the call, Sophia immediately phoned Stephanie, who promised to expedite the protection order given this new development. Then she contacted the building's security desk, authorizing them to deny entry to both Nathan and Diane, regardless of what claims they made. When Sophia finally returned to Rachel's home, her friend took one look at her face and wordlessly poured a glass of wine. "They went back," Sophia explained, sinking onto the couch. "Tried to take more things. The police were called." Rachel's expression darkened. "Please tell me they're in jail where they belong." "No, I didn't press charges. Yet." Sophia sipped her wine, the rich Cabernet grounding her in the present moment. "The lawyer thinks that would complicate the divorce. Better to handle it all through civil court, if possible." "I still think jail would be appropriate," Rachel muttered. "Especially for Mommy Dearest." Despite everything, Sophia smiled slightly. "You've never even met Diane." "I don't need to. Anyone who raises a son to be that dependent and enables that kind of behavior is toxic through and through." Rachel refilled their glasses. "What's the next step?" "Police escort to get my remaining belongings tomorrow. Protection order, then divorce filings." Sophia recited the plan like a shopping list, clinical and detached. "Stephanie thinks it should be straightforward, given the circumstances." "And emotionally? What's the next step there?" Rachel's question was gentle but direct. Sophia considered this. I honestly don't know. I feel numb, like I'm handling someone else's crisis. That's shock, Rachel said knowingly. Trust me, the feelings will come crashing in when you least expect them. And when they do, I'll be here with more wine and a shoulder to cry on. The predicted emotional collapse arrived the next morning as Sophia stood in her bedroom with a police officer outside the door, packing what remained of her professional wardrobe. Most of her clothes had been slashed or torn, but a few items hanging in the back of the closet had escaped the rampage. As she reached for a blue blazer, the one she'd worn on her first date with Nathan, a wave of grief hit her with physical force. She sank to the closet floor, clutching the blazer to her chest, finally allowing the tears she'd been holding back. She wept not just for the marriage that had imploded so spectacularly, but for the future she had imagined, for the family they might have created, for the partner she had thought Nathan was, or could become. Officer Garcia, the female officer assigned to escort her, appeared in the doorway. Ms. Lawrence, are you all right? Sophia nodded, wiping her eyes. Sorry, just taking a moment? Take all the time you need, the officer said kindly. This kind of thing, it's never easy. The hardest part, Sophia confessed, standing and resuming her packing, is that I still don't understand how we got here, how someone I loved could do this, or stand by while it was done. Officer Garcia's expression was compassionate but knowing. In my experience, when someone shows you who they really are, even if it's shocking to you, they've usually been that person all along. You just couldn't see it until now. The wisdom in those words stayed with Sophia as she finished gathering what could be salvaged. Some clothes, important papers, family photographs, a few personal mementos. The apartment would need extensive repairs before it was livable again. Walls would need repainting, furniture replacing, broken items discarding. In a way, Sophia thought, it was a fitting metaphor for her life. Gutted, damaged, but with good bones, ready for renovation. 3 days later, as Sophia was reviewing repair estimates for the apartment, her phone rang with yet another unknown number. Hello, she answered cautiously. Ms. Lawrence, this is Andrew Hayes from Hayes Renovation and Restoration. Your insurance company asked us to provide a quote for repairs to your apartment. I was hoping to schedule a time to do a walk-through assessment. Of course. Sophia checked her calendar. Would tomorrow afternoon work? Say, 3 o'clock? That's perfect. I'll be there personally. The insurance adjuster mentioned this was a sensitive situation. I want to assure you we handle these cases with extra care. I appreciate that, Sophia replied, surprised by the contractor's perception. Most businesses would have simply seen it as another job. The following afternoon, Sophia met Andrew Hayes at her building. He was not what she had expected. Younger than she'd imagined, perhaps in his mid-30s, dressed in a crisp button-down shirt rather than the typical contractor's work clothes, with intelligent eyes and a thoughtful demeanor. The insurance company provided some photos, he explained as they rode the elevator, but I prefer to see the damage firsthand. Sometimes there are underlying issues that aren't immediately visible. When they entered the apartment, Andrew's expression remained professionally neutral, but Sophia caught the brief widening of his eyes at the extent of the destruction. This was thoroughly done, he observed quietly, moving carefully through the living room, examining slash marks on the sofa, gouges in the hardwood floors, shattered mirrors. That's one way of putting it, Sophia agreed, feeling strangely self-conscious, as if the destruction somehow reflected on her. Andrew seemed to sense her discomfort. I've seen this kind of damage before, he said, kneeling to examine a particularly deep gouge in the flooring. Anger leaves distinctive patterns, different from typical burglary damage or vandalism. You can tell the difference? Sophia asked, genuinely curious. 10 years in this business, you learn to recognize signatures. He stood, brushing off his knees. Burglars are efficient. They break what's necessary to get what they want. Random vandals are chaotic, often intoxicated. But this, he gestured to the methodical destruction surrounding them, this was personal. Someone took their time, made sure to damage what mattered most. His insight was so accurate it momentarily stole Sophia's breath. That's exactly what happened. Andrew nodded, his expression compassionate without being pitying. I don't need to know the details, just helps me understand what we're dealing with. He pulled out a tablet, beginning to make notes. The good news is, everything is fixable. The structure is solid. This is all cosmetic, though extensive. As they moved through the apartment, Andrew detailed what would need replacement versus repair, estimated timeframes, discussed options for upgrading certain elements while they were being worked on anyway. His approach was thorough and respectful, treating the space as something worthy of restoration rather than a disaster zone. How long do you think the work will take? Sophia asked as they completed the assessment. With proper coordination, about 3 to 4 weeks. Andrew looked up from his tablet. We can prioritize certain areas if you're planning to move back in stages. Sophia considered this. Part of her wanted nothing more than to reclaim her space, to erase all evidence of the destruction and start fresh. Another part wondered if she could ever feel truly at peace there again, with the memory of what had happened etched into her consciousness, if not the physical space. I haven't decided if I'm staying or selling once repairs are complete, she admitted. Andrew nodded understanding. Either way, we'll make it like new. Better than new, actually. He hesitated, then added, if you do decide to sell, I have connections with several excellent real estate agents who specialize in situations where discretion is important. His thoughtfulness touched Sophia. Thank you. I appreciate that more than you know. As they wrapped up, exchanging contact information and discussing next steps, Sophia found herself noticing details about Andrew she had missed initially. The careful way he listened before responding, his attention to small details, the lack of condescension in his explanations of technical aspects of the repairs. One more thing, Andrew said as they prepared to leave. We can arrange for secure disposal of any damaged items you don't want to keep. Sometimes it helps not to have to deal with those reminders. That would be great, Sophia agreed, suddenly overwhelmed by the thought of sorting through the physical remnants of her shattered marriage. I'll have a detailed estimate to you by tomorrow, Andrew promised. And Miss Lawrence? For what it's worth, spaces can heal just like people do. Sometimes they even come out stronger for having been broken. His words stayed with Sophia long after he had left, a small spark of hope in the darkness that had enveloped her life. Spaces could heal. People could heal. Maybe she could too. The following week brought rapid developments. The protection order was granted, formally barring both Nathan and Diane from approaching Sophia or her property. Divorce papers were filed, with Nathan offering surprisingly little resistance, a development Stephanie attributed to his likely consultation with his own attorney, who would have explained the weakness of his position. Repairs began on the apartment, with Andrew's team working efficiently to restore the space. Sophia threw herself into her work, earning praise from senior management for a particularly successful presentation to potential investors. On the surface, she was handling everything with admirable composure, but in private moments, the grief still ambushed her. Seeing a couple holding hands in the street, passing a restaurant where she and Nathan had celebrated an anniversary, finding his forgotten tie in her borrowed desk at Rachel's. It's normal, Rachel assured her during one particularly difficult evening. You're mourning not just the relationship that was, but the one you thought you had, the one you hoped for. That takes time. I just keep asking myself how I could have been so wrong about someone, Sophia confessed. I'm supposed to be good at reading people. It's part of my job. Love makes fools of us all, Rachel said, not unkindly. And manipulative people like Nathan and his mother are experts at showing you exactly what you want to see, at least until they think they have you locked down. 2 weeks into the renovation process, Andrew called with an update. We're ahead of schedule, he reported. The flooring replacement is complete, walls repainted, new windows installed. The custom furniture you selected should arrive next week. Would you like to do a walk-through to see the progress? That would be great, Sophia agreed, realizing she was actually looking forward to seeing the transformation. The apartment that greeted her the following day bore little resemblance to either the destroyed space she had fled or the original design she had once shared with Nathan. Andrew's team had implemented her requests for a complete refresh. New color scheme, different furniture arrangement, updated fixtures. It was familiar enough to feel like hers, but different enough to feel like a fresh start. "This is incredible," she told Andrew, who was watching her reaction carefully. "I can't believe how much you've accomplished in such a short time." "We prioritized your project," he admitted. "Situations like yours, they deserve special attention." As they toured the space, discussing final details and remaining work, Sophia found herself noticing again how easy Andrew was to talk to, how he listened intently to her ideas without dismissing them, how he offered suggestions that enhanced rather than contradicted her vision. "Would you like to see the bedroom?" he asked. "We've finished the structural repairs, but the new bed frame won't arrive until next week." The master bedroom had been the site of some of the worst damage: the slashed mattress, destroyed clothing, Diane's threatening note. Sophia hesitated, unsure if she was ready to face that particular space. Andrew seemed to understand her reluctance. "We can skip it if you prefer. The important thing is that you feel comfortable in your own home again." "No, I should see it," Sophia decided. "I can't avoid it forever." To her surprise, the bedroom was unrecognizable, painted in a soothing sage green rather than the previous beige, with new window treatments allowing in more natural light, different placement for the bed. Even the closet had been reconfigured with a new organization system. "We thought a complete change might help," Andrew explained, watching her carefully. "If you don't like it, I love it," Sophia interrupted, emotion catching in her throat. "It's exactly what I needed without knowing I needed it." Something shifted between them in that moment, a connection beyond the professional, a mutual recognition of understanding. Sophia found herself wanting to know more about this man who seemed to intuitively grasp what she required to heal. "Would you have time for coffee?" she asked impulsively. "To discuss the final details, of course." Andrew's smile reached his eyes. "I always have time for coffee and final details." They found a small cafe near her building, settling into a corner table with their drinks. The conversation flowed easily from the renovation to their respective careers, discovering mutual interests in architecture, travel, and obscure documentaries. "How did you get into restoration work?" Sophia asked, genuinely curious about his path. "Family business, initially," Andrew explained. "My father was a general contractor, but I noticed there was a special need for restoration, not just fixing things, but making them whole again, especially after trauma, fire, flood, or more personal disasters, like vengeful ex-husbands and their mothers," Sophia suggested with a small smile. Andrew chuckled. "Exactly. Though yours ranks among the more thorough demolitions I've seen." "Lucky me," Sophia said dryly. "In a way, maybe," Andrew replied, surprising her. At her questioning look, he continued, "Some damage is visible, repairable. Other kinds, they stay hidden until the structure eventually collapses. At least, you got to see the truth and rebuild on your terms." His insight struck Sophia deeply. "I never thought of it that way." "Sorry," Andrew said, looking slightly embarrassed. "I tend to see life through construction metaphors." "No, it's refreshing," Sophia assured him. "Most people just tell me how sorry they are, or how I'll find someone else, or how time heals all wounds. Generic comfort without real understanding." Their coffee stretched to nearly 2 hours of conversation, ending only when Andrew reluctantly mentioned his next appointment. As they prepared to leave, he hesitated. "I know this is unorthodox, given our professional relationship," he began, "but when the project is complete, I'd like to take you to dinner, if you're interested and ready." The invitation was unexpected but not unwelcome. Sophia considered it carefully, aware of her still raw emotional state, but also conscious of the genuine connection she felt with this thoughtful man. "I'd like that," she decided. "But you're right. Let's wait until the project is finished. I think we both need that clean separation between professional and personal." Andrew's smile was warm with understanding. "Absolutely. Good boundaries make for solid foundations." As Sophia walked back to Rachel's that evening, she felt something she hadn't experienced in weeks. A small, tentative spark of hope for the future. Not because of Andrew specifically, though she was genuinely interested in knowing him better, but because she had glimpsed a path forward, a way to rebuild not just her apartment, but her life on stronger, truer foundations. 3 weeks later, Sophia stood in the center of her fully restored apartment, taking in the transformation. The space felt simultaneously familiar and entirely new, like meeting an old friend who had undergone a profound personal evolution. The walls gleamed with fresh paint in colors she had selected, warm neutrals accented with touches of blue and green, colors of growth and tranquility. New furniture arranged in a more open configuration made the space feel larger, more welcoming. Custom bookshelves lined one wall, filled with her books, photographs, and mementos that had survived the destruction. "What do you think?" Andrew asked, watching her reaction carefully. "Is there anything you'd like to change?" Sophia turned slowly, absorbing every detail. "It's perfect," she said softly. "Better than before. It feels like mine. Truly mine now." The renovation had become a form of therapy for her. Each decision about colors, materials, and arrangements, a reclaiming of her space and, by extension, her life. Andrew had been an ideal partner in this process, offering suggestions without imposing, listening to her needs, and translating them into tangible solutions. "That was the goal," he replied with evident satisfaction. "Not just to repair, but to renew." Their professional relationship had maintained appropriate boundaries throughout the process, but Sophia had grown to look forward to their meetings, to value Andrew's perspective not just on renovation details, but on the larger process of rebuilding after devastation. He spoke from experience. She had learned. His own divorce 5 years earlier had left him similarly questioning his judgment and reluctant to trust again. The team will be back tomorrow for final touch-ups and to install the last light fixtures, Andrew explained, making notes on his tablet. "Then we'll do a complete clean, and by this time tomorrow, you'll be ready to move back in. If you want to, that is." The question hung in the air. Sophia had been considering this very issue for weeks. Part of her was eager to reclaim her space, to sleep in her own bed again, to resume normal life. Another part wondered if too many difficult memories lingered here, invisible but potent. "I'm moving back in," she decided aloud, the certainty of it solidifying as she spoke. "This is my home. I earned it. I chose it. I'm not letting what happened take that from me, too." Andrew's smile held approval, and something else. Pride, perhaps. "I was hoping you'd say that." "Thank you," Sophia said, meaning it deeply. Not just for the renovation, but for understanding, for seeing this as more than just another job. "It was never just another job," Andrew admitted. "Not from the moment I saw what had been done here. Not from the moment I met you." The air between them shifted subtly. Professional courtesy giving way to something more personal, more promising. Sophia felt a flutter of anticipation, followed immediately by a wave of uncertainty. Was she ready for this? Was it too soon? As if reading her thoughts, Andrew added, "That dinner invitation still stands. Whenever you're ready. No pressure, no expectations." "I'd like that," Sophia replied, surprising herself with how much she meant it. "Maybe next week, after I've settled back in?" "Perfect." Andrew's smile reached his eyes. "Now, let me show you how the new smart home system works before I go." As he demonstrated the security features, lighting controls, and temperature settings, Sophia found herself studying him with new awareness. Andrew Hayes was nothing like Nathan. Where her ex-husband had been charming but ultimately weak, Andrew possessed a quiet strength. Where Nathan had sought constant reassurance, Andrew seemed comfortable in his own skin. Where Nathan had been threatened by her success, Andrew spoke of her career with genuine interest and respect. "All set," Andrew concluded. "You have my number if you have any questions or concerns, day or night." "Thank you again," Sophia said, walking him to the door. "For everything." After he left, she wandered through the apartment alone, reacquainting herself with the space, noting the thoughtful details that hadn't been there before. Built-in charging stations for her devices, improved kitchen storage, recessed lighting that could be adjusted to suit her mood. The place felt secure, protected by new locks, reinforced doors, and a state-of-the-art security system. Her phone chimed with a text from Rachel. "How's the big reveal? Everything you hoped for?" Sophia smiled, snapping a few photos to send in response. "Even better. Moving in tomorrow. Haven't felt this good in months." Rachel's reply came quickly. "Apartment looks amazing. And so does the contractor in that last site photo you sent me last week. Just saying." Sophia laughed out loud, the sound echoing pleasantly in her renewed space. "Dinner next week. We'll see." "Finally," Rachel texted back with a string of celebratory emojis. "Wear the blue dress." The following day, Sophia officially moved back into her apartment. Rachel and a few close friends helped her carry in the personal items she'd been storing at Rachel's, ordered takeout, and celebrated with champagne, turning the occasion into an impromptu housewarming. "To new beginnings," Rachel toasted, raising her glass, "and to leaving toxic people in the dust where they belong." Everyone laughed and drank to that, the apartment filling with the sounds of friendship and support that helped further cleanse the space of its difficult memories. After her friends left, Sophia stood on her balcony, looking out at the city lights. 6 weeks had passed since that fateful Sunday morning when Diane had demanded to know who she thought she was. 6 weeks of legal meetings, insurance claims, renovation decisions, and emotional processing. 6 weeks of discovering her own strength, of learning who her true friends were, of beginning to rebuild not just her home, but her sense of self. The divorce proceedings were moving forward with surprising smoothness. Nathan, likely on advice from his attorney, had dropped his claims to any portion of Sophia's assets, accepting the reality that their brief marriage and his limited contributions left him with little legal ground to stand on. The protection order remained in place, though there had been no further attempts at contact from either Nathan or Diane since its issuance. Stephanie, her attorney, had heard through professional channels that Nathan had moved back in with his mother permanently, information that surprised Sophia not at all. Her only lingering question was whether he had finally told Diane the truth about their financial situation, about who had actually been supporting whom throughout their relationship. She got her answer the following morning. Sophia was enjoying her coffee before heading to work when her phone rang. Another unknown number. Normally she would have ignored it, but something prompted her to answer. "Hello? Sophia? It's Diane Miller." Sophia nearly dropped her mug. "Diane, I have a protection order against you. This call violates that order." I know, Diane said quickly. "I wouldn't call if it wasn't important. Please, just 5 minutes. That's all I ask." Against her better judgment, Sophia's curiosity won out. 5 minutes. "Thank you." Diane's voice sounded different, subdued, lacking its usual imperious tone. I owe you an apology. What Nathan and I did to your apartment was inexcusable, criminal. I understand now why you got that court order." Sophia remained silent, waiting. An apology from Diane Miller was so unexpected that she suspected some kind of trap. "Nathan finally told me everything," Diane continued, when Sophia didn't respond. "About the apartment being yours, about you supporting him financially, about all of it." "And?" Sophia prompted, still wary. "And I was wrong about you." The admission seemed physically painful for Diane to make. I had this image in my head of who you were, of what was happening in your marriage. I thought you were taking advantage of my son, emasculating him, making him dependent on you. I was protecting him, or so I thought. You destroyed my home, Sophia said flatly. You threatened me. You tried to take what wasn't yours. I know. Diane's voice cracked slightly. There's no excuse, but there is an explanation, if you're willing to hear it. Despite herself, Sophia was curious. Go on. Nathan's father was like him. Charming, handsome, professionally unstable. I supported us for years while he drifted from job to job, full of big dreams that never materialized. He left us when Nathan was 12, ran off with his much younger assistant, leaving nothing but debts behind. Diane paused, her breathing audible through the phone. I swore I'd never let Nathan become dependent on a woman the way his father was dependent on me. I raised him to be the man of the house, to believe in traditional roles. So when you realized I was the primary breadwinner, Sophia began, understanding dawning. It was like history repeating itself, Diane confirmed, like watching my son become his father. I couldn't bear it. I lashed out at you instead of facing the truth about Nathan. The revelation stunned Sophia. All this time, she had seen Diane as a controlling monster, never considering that the woman's behavior, however inexcusable, might have roots in her own pain and fear. Why are you telling me this now? Sophia asked. Because I'm losing my son, Diane admitted, her voice breaking completely. He's becoming more dependent, not less. He won't look for work. He sits around my house all day, watching TV, playing video games. When I try to talk to him about it, he says there's no point, that he's not good at anything, that no woman will ever want him now. That's not my problem, Diane, Sophia said, though with less edge than she might have a few weeks earlier. I know it's not. I'm not asking you to fix it. I wanted you to understand, and to apologize. Truly apologize. Diane took a deep breath. What I said that day, what I called you, freeloader, nothing. It was all projection. I was describing my fear of what Nathan was becoming, not who you are. Sophia sat with this information, turning it over in her mind. The apology seemed genuine. Diane's distress palpable even through the phone. But years of manipulation couldn't be erased by one conversation. I appreciate your apology, Sophia said finally, but it doesn't change what happened. The protection order stays in place. The divorce proceeds. I understand, Diane replied, sounding resigned. I wouldn't expect anything else. I just needed you to know that I recognize the harm I caused, that I regret it deeply. After ending the call, Sophia sat motionless, processing this unexpected development. She felt no desire to reconcile with Diane or Nathan, no inclination to drop the legal proceedings or protection order. But Diane's call had provided something she hadn't realized she needed: context, explanation, a final piece of the puzzle that helped make sense of the bewildering collapse of her marriage. At work that day, Sophia found herself more focused, more present than she had been in weeks. As if Diane's call had somehow released a lingering tension she hadn't been fully aware of carrying. During her lunch break, she texted Rachel with a brief account of the conversation. "Wow," Rachel responded. "Didn't see that coming. Do you believe her?" "Strangely, yes," Sophia replied. "It doesn't excuse anything, but it helps me understand. Makes me feel less crazy for not seeing the red flags sooner." "Closure is underrated," Rachel texted back. "Now focus on the future. Blue dress, handsome contractor. Tomorrow night." Sophia smiled at her phone. The dinner with Andrew was indeed scheduled for the following evening, her first real date since the separation. She had chosen the restaurant, a small Italian place known for its intimate atmosphere and excellent wine list. Andrew had seemed pleased with her selection when she suggested it, mentioning that he loved Italian food but rarely took the time to enjoy it properly. As she prepared for the date the next evening, Sophia found herself genuinely excited rather than anxious. She chose the blue dress Rachel had recommended, a simple but elegant sheath that highlighted her eyes and complemented her complexion. She styled her hair in loose waves, applied subtle makeup, and selected delicate silver jewelry. Looking in the mirror, she hardly recognized the woman who had stood frozen in shock in this same bedroom 6 weeks earlier, staring at a slashed mattress and a threatening note. That woman had been shattered, disbelieving. The woman who gazed back at her now looked confident, composed, perhaps even wiser. Andrew arrived precisely on time, dressed in a well-tailored charcoal suit that suggested this evening meant as much to him as it did to her. His appreciative glance when she opened the door held warmth rather than mere physical assessment. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "Thank you." "You clean up pretty well yourself," she replied, pleased to discover that the easy rapport they had developed during the renovation process translated naturally to this new context. The restaurant was busy, but not crowded, their corner table offering both privacy and a pleasant view of the street outside. They ordered wine, studied menus, and settled into conversation that flowed as naturally as if they had known each other for years rather than weeks. "I got a call from Diane yesterday," Sophia found herself saying, after they had covered more conventional first-date topics. "Nathan's mother." Andrew's expression registered surprise, followed by concern. "The protection order is still in place," Sophia assured him. She called to apologize, actually, to explain, in her way, what drove her behavior. "That's unexpected," Andrew commented. "Do you think it was genuine?" "Oddly, yes." Sophia twirled pasta on her fork, considering. "It doesn't change anything, but it helped me make sense of what happened. Helped me see that it truly wasn't about me. It was about their issues, their patterns, their fears." Andrew nodded understanding. Sometimes that's the most important realization after a relationship ends, that their behavior reflected their damage, not your worth. Exactly. Sophia felt a surge of appreciation for this man who seemed to intuitively grasp concepts that had taken her weeks of reflection to reach. "It's liberating, in a way. I spent so much time wondering what I could have done differently, how I could have prevented what happened. And now?" Andrew asked, his eyes intent on hers. "Now I realize there was nothing I could have done, because the fundamental problem wasn't mine to fix. Nathan's dependency, Diane's control issues, those existed long before I entered the picture, and will continue long after I'm gone." "That's a profound insight," Andrew observed. "Many people never reach it, even after multiple failed relationships." Their conversation shifted to his experience, the painful dissolution of his own marriage after discovering his ex-wife's long-term affair, his initial self-doubt, his eventual recognition that her choices reflected her character, not his value. "Renovation became a kind of therapy for me," he explained. "There's something powerful about taking something broken and making it whole again, something stronger and more beautiful than before." "I felt that during our project," Sophia admitted. "Each decision about the apartment felt like a decision about my future. What to keep, what to discard, what to transform." As the evening progressed, Sophia found herself increasingly drawn to Andrew's thoughtfulness, his quiet confidence, his evident respect for her experience and perspective. Unlike Nathan, who had always needed to be the center of attention, Andrew listened as much as he spoke, asked questions that showed genuine interest in her thoughts, shared his own views without dominating the conversation. When he walked her back to her apartment building, the moment of potential awkwardness that often concludes first dates never materialized. Instead, there was a comfortable sense of mutual understanding, of possibilities unfolding naturally. "I'd like to see you again," Andrew said, as they stood outside her building. "Perhaps dinner at my place next time? I make a decent risotto." "I'd like that," Sophia replied, meaning it completely. "Next week?" His smile was warm, genuine. "Perfect." He leaned forward, kissing her cheek softly. "Good night, Sophia. Good night, Andrew." As she rode the elevator to her apartment, Sophia felt a quiet joy spreading through her. Not the heady infatuation she had experienced with Nathan, but something more grounded, more sustainable, a recognition of potential rather than a desperate grasp at fantasy. Inside her apartment, she kicked off her shoes and wandered to the balcony, looking out at the city lights as she had done the night before. But tonight, the view seemed different, brighter, more promising, filled with possibilities rather than reminders of pain. Her phone chimed with a text from Rachel. "Details. How was it? Second date potential or hard pass?" Sophia smiled, typing back, "Definitely second date. Dinner at his place next week. He's different, in all the right ways." Rachel's response came instantly. "Yes! I need all the details tomorrow." "Lunch?" "Lunch," Sophia confirmed, still smiling as she set down her phone. Tomorrow would bring another day at the job she loved. Lunch with a friend who had stood by her through the darkest moments and continued progress on her divorce. Next week would bring a second date with a man who seemed to understand both renovation and healing. The future stretched before her, uncertain but full of promise, like a newly renovated space waiting to be filled with new memories. Sophia Lawrence was reclaiming her life, piece by piece, day by day. And for the first time in months, she was genuinely excited to see what came next. The following weekend, Sophia met with Stephanie for what would be their final consultation before the divorce was finalized. The attorney had news that surprised her. Nathan's counsel has proposed an unusual addition to the settlement agreement, Stephanie explained, sliding a document across her desk. He wants to include a formal apology as part of the court record. Sophia scanned the document with disbelief. It was a straightforward acknowledgement of wrongdoing, admitting to property damage, expressing regret for emotional distress caused, accepting full responsibility with no excuses or qualifications. "This is unexpected," Sophia said, looking up from the paper. "What's the legal significance?" "Minimal," Stephanie admitted. "It doesn't change the financial terms or any other substantive aspects of the divorce, but it does create an official record acknowledging fault, which is rare in no-fault divorce states like New York." "Do you think it's sincere?" Sophia asked, still struggling to reconcile this document with the Nathan she had come to know. Stephanie considered this carefully. His attorney is well respected, not the type to engage in meaningless gestures. And there's no strategic advantage to this. If anything, it could theoretically strengthen any civil claim you might bring for the property damage, though I know you've decided against that route. Sophia nodded, thinking of Diane's unexpected call, wondering if perhaps mother and son had both experienced some kind of awakening. Or perhaps this was Nathan's first step toward genuine independence, taking responsibility for his actions rather than allowing his mother to dictate his responses. "I'll accept it," she decided. "Not for him, but for me." For the record, the divorce was finalized the following week, a simple proceeding that took less than 30 minutes in court, legally ending a union that had effectively collapsed months earlier. Nathan attended with his attorney but sat silently throughout, making eye contact with Sophia only once. A brief, unreadable glance as the judge pronounced them divorced. Diane was notably absent, honoring the protection order that remained in place, despite the divorce's conclusion. Sophia wondered briefly if this too represented growth on the older woman's part, an acceptance of boundaries she had previously trampled without thought or care. Outside the courthouse, Rachel waited with a small bouquet of flowers and a warm embrace. "How do you feel?" she asked as they walked toward a nearby cafe for a celebratory lunch. Sophia considered the question carefully. "Lighter," she said finally. "Like I've set down a heavy burden I didn't realize I was carrying." "Freedom looks good on you," Rachel observed, linking her arm through Sophia's. "Now, tell me more about last night's dinner with the dreamy contractor." Sophia smiled, thinking of the evening spent in Andrew's tastefully appointed home, cooking together, sharing stories, discovering common ground and intriguing differences. Their connection continued to develop naturally, without pressure or agenda, each encounter adding another layer of understanding and appreciation. "It's early days," she said, not wanting to jinx what felt like a promising beginning. "But good, really good." As they settled at their table, Sophia's phone buzzed with an email notification, the final paperwork from the court, officially documenting the end of her marriage to Nathan Miller. She glanced at it briefly, then tucked the phone away. That chapter was closed. A new one was beginning, and this time she was writing it entirely on her own terms. 1 year later, Sophia stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her office, gazing at the Manhattan skyline as the setting sun painted the glass towers in shades of gold and amber. The view never failed to inspire her, a reminder of how far she had come and the possibilities that still stretched before her. The promotion she had received 6 months earlier had come with this corner office, a substantial raise, and expanded responsibilities that challenged and fulfilled her in equal measure. On her desk sat a small framed photo taken at Rachel's wedding 3 months ago, Sophia in a flattering bridesmaid's dress, standing beside Andrew, both smiling broadly at the camera. Next to it was a carefully preserved card from her team, congratulating her on leading the acquisition that had cemented her reputation as one of the company's most valuable executives. Her phone chimed with a text from Andrew. "Still on for 7? Made reservations at Bellini's." Sophia smiled, typing back. "Wouldn't miss it. Be ready in 20 minutes." Sietert today marked 1 year since her divorce had been finalized, not an anniversary she had planned to commemorate, but Andrew had insisted on taking her to dinner, saying it was worth celebrating how far she had come since that difficult day. As she gathered her things to leave, Sophia reflected on the gradual, steady evolution of their relationship over the past year. Unlike the whirlwind courtship with Nathan, her connection with Andrew had developed naturally, each step forward taken with careful consideration and honest communication. They had begun officially dating 2 months after her divorce, spent holidays meeting each other's families, and just last month had started discussing the possibility of moving in together. "Ms. Lawrence?" Her assistant appeared in the doorway. "There's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she's quite insistent." Sophia checked her watch, frowning slightly. "I'm actually heading out soon." "Who is it?" "A Mrs. Miller. She said you would know what it's about." Sophia froze, her hand halfway to her bag. Diane Miller, here at her office, after a year of silence. "Did she say what she wants?" Sophia asked, her voice carefully neutral. "Just that it's important, and won't take long." Her assistant looked concerned. "Should I tell her you're unavailable?" Sophia considered this, weighing curiosity against caution. The protection order had expired 6 months ago, and she hadn't bothered to renew it, feeling sufficiently distant from that chapter of her life. Still, an unannounced visit from Diane could hardly be a positive development. "No, it's all right," she decided. "Send her in, but please stay nearby. And if I'm not out in 10 minutes, come in with some urgent matter that requires my immediate attention." Her assistant nodded, understanding, and disappeared. Moments later, Diane Miller entered the office, looking markedly different from the woman Sophia remembered. The perfectly coiffed hair was now streaked with more gray, the designer clothes replaced by a simple, almost severe black pantsuit. But the most notable change was in her demeanor, the imperious confidence replaced by a certain hesitancy, even humility. "Sophia," Diane said, stopping just inside the doorway. "Thank you for seeing me." "This is unexpected," Sophia replied, remaining behind her desk, maintaining both physical and professional distance. "What can I do for you, Diane? I won't take much of your time." Diane moved further into the office but didn't sit down. "I wanted to give you this in person." Siki, she placed a small envelope on the edge of Sophia's desk. "It's the final restitution payment for the damages to your apartment." Sophia looked at the envelope with surprise. 3 months after the divorce, she had received a letter from Diane's attorney, offering to make monthly payments to cover the portion of the renovation costs not covered by insurance, approximately $30,000. Sophia had initially considered refusing, but Stephanie had advised her to accept, seeing it as a tangible acknowledgement of wrongdoing. "You could have mailed this," Sophia observed, making no move to take the envelope. "Or had your attorney handle it." "I could have," Diane agreed, "but I wanted to see you, to tell you in person that the payments are complete, but my regret isn't. That will continue for the rest of my life." The sincerity in the older woman's voice was unmistakable. Sophia studied her former mother-in-law, searching for signs of the manipulative tyrant who had made her married life a nightmare. Instead, she saw only an aging woman carrying the weight of her mistakes. "Please, sit," Sophia said finally, gesturing to one of the chairs facing her desk. Diane sat, her posture still straight, but lacking its former rigidity. "You've done well for yourself," she observed, glancing around the impressive office. "Nathan mentioned you had received a promotion." "You're in contact with Nathan?" Sophia asked, surprised. The last she had heard, through mutual acquaintances, Nathan had moved to Chicago shortly after the divorce. "We speak occasionally," Diane said, her expression complicated. "Not like before. He's finding his own way now. It's been difficult for both of us, learning new patterns after so many years." "I see." Sophia wasn't sure what else to say, what possible common ground they could find after everything that had happened. "He's working steadily now," Diane continued, as if sensing Sophia's discomfort and seeking neutral territory. "Teaching high school history. It suits him better than all those sales jobs he kept trying to force himself into." "That's good to hear," Sophia said, genuinely glad that Nathan had found something stable, something that might allow him to develop the independence he had so desperately lacked. A brief, awkward silence fell between them. Sophia glanced at the clock, thinking of her dinner with Andrew, wondering how to politely end this unexpected encounter. "I won't keep you," Diane said, following Sophia's gaze to the clock. "I can see you're on your way out. There's one more thing I wanted to say." "Go ahead," Sophia prompted when Diane hesitated. "I've been in therapy this past year," Diane revealed, the admission clearly difficult for her. "Trying to understand why I became so controlling, why I couldn't let Nathan live his own life, why I felt so threatened by strong, independent women like you." Sophia remained silent, letting the older woman continue at her own pace. "What I did to you, the interference, the destruction, the harassment, it was inexcusable. I know that now, but understanding why I did it has helped me ensure I never do anything like it again." Diane's hands twisted together in her lap. "I learned that I was repeating patterns from my own upbringing, trying to protect Nathan from the kind of pain I experienced, but in doing so, I was actually causing different kinds of harm. Therapy can be very illuminating," Sophia said carefully, thinking of her own sessions in the months following the divorce, the painful insights she had gained about her tendency to ignore red flags, to accommodate destructive behavior, to prioritize keeping the peace over maintaining healthy boundaries. "Indeed," Diane smiled slightly. "My therapist says I'm making progress, but that true growth requires making amends where possible. Hence my visit today. The financial restitution is complete," Sophia said, nodding toward the envelope. "As far as I'm concerned, we can both move forward now. Thank you." Diane stood, smoothing her pants with slightly trembling hands. "I won't intrude on your life again. I just wanted you to know that your suffering wasn't in vain. It led to changes, in Nathan, in me, that might not have happened otherwise." As Diane turned to leave, Sophia found herself speaking impulsively. "How is Nathan, really? Not his job, but him." Diane paused, considering the question with evident care. "He's finding himself, I think. Dating occasionally, but cautiously. Living modestly, but independently. Learning to stand on his own 2 feet, without either leaning on me or looking for another woman to depend on." She met Sophia's eyes directly. He asks about you sometimes, not in a hopeful way, just concerned that you're all right after what we put you through. You can tell him I'm fine, Sophia said. Better than fine, actually. I'm glad. Diane's smile seemed genuine. You deserve that happiness. You always did. After Diane left, Sophia sat motionless for several minutes, processing the unexpected encounter. There was a symmetry to it that felt right somehow. The final payment delivered in person. The apology reiterated face-to-face. The cycle of injury and restitution complete. Her assistant appeared in the doorway. Everything okay, Ms. Lawrence? You've been in here a while after she left. Everything's fine, Sophia assured her, standing and gathering her things. Just thinking. I'm heading out now. Have a good evening. The car service Andrew had arranged was waiting outside her building. As she settled into the back seat, Sophia sent him a quick text. On my way. Had an unexpected visitor. Diane. Tell you about it at dinner. His response came immediately. Diane, are you okay? More than okay, she replied, smiling at his concern. It was actually healing in a way. See you soon. The restaurant Andrew had chosen was one of their favorites. Elegant without being stuffy, intimate without being cramped. He was waiting at their usual corner table, rising to greet her with a warm embrace and a gentle kiss. You look beautiful, he said, his gaze appreciative as he took in the emerald dress she had chosen for the evening. And remarkably composed for someone who just had a surprise visit from their former mother-in-law. It was surreal, Sophia admitted as they settled at the table. But not in a bad way. She brought the final restitution payment and wanted to deliver it in person. Said she's been in therapy, working on her controlling tendencies. That's unexpected, Andrew commented, his expression reflecting the same surprise Sophia had felt. Do you believe her? Strangely, yes. Sophia accepted the menu from their server, considering her answer further. She seemed genuinely changed, humbled, even. And she mentioned that Nathan has changed too, teaching now, living independently, finding his own path. How do you feel about that? Andrew asked, his question careful, non-judgmental. Sophia appreciated his sensitivity, the way he never assumed her emotions or reactions. Relieved, mostly, she replied honestly. I never wished them ill, despite everything. It's good to know some positive change came from that difficult time. They ordered wine, selected their meals, and the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Andrew's latest restoration project, Sophia's upcoming business trip to London, the play they had tickets to see that weekend. Their relationship had settled into a comfortable rhythm that still contained elements of pleasant surprise and discovery. As they finished their entrees, Andrew reached across the table to take her hand. I had planned to wait until dessert for this, but I find I can't hold it in any longer. Sophia looked at him questioningly, noting a new intensity in his expression, a mixture of excitement and nervousness she hadn't seen before. Today marks 1 year since your divorce was finalized, Andrew began, his thumb tracing gentle circles on the back of her hand. A year of healing, of growth, of building something new, for both of us, together and individually. It's been quite a year, Sophia agreed, her heart beginning to beat faster as she sensed the direction of his words. When I first met you, standing in that destroyed apartment, I saw someone who had been deeply wounded, but wasn't broken. Someone with remarkable strength and resilience. As I got to know you, I discovered so much more. Your intelligence, your compassion, your ability to rebuild not just physical spaces, but your entire life. Andrew reached into his jacket pocket with his free hand, producing a small velvet box that he placed on the table between them. I'm not proposing yet, he clarified quickly. I know we've only talked tentatively about moving in together, and I respect the pace you're comfortable with. Sophia felt a complex mix of emotions, relief that he wasn't rushing her, appreciation for his sensitivity, curiosity about what the box contained, if not an engagement ring. This is a promise, Andrew continued, opening the box to reveal a delicate silver key attached to a simple silver chain. A key to my home. which I hope will someday be our home, whenever you're ready. No pressure, no timeline, just an open door whenever you want to walk through it. Tears pricked at Sophia's eyes, not of sadness, but of profound gratitude for this man who understood her need for autonomy, who offered partnership without demanding surrender, who recognized that true intimacy required both closeness and space. "It's perfect," she said softly, taking the necklace from the box. "Will you put it on me?" Andrew moved to her side of the table, gently fastening the chain around her neck. The key rested just below her collarbone, a tangible symbol of possibility rather than possession. "I love you," he said simply as he returned to his seat, "and I'm incredibly proud of the journey you've made this past year." "I love you too," Sophia replied, the words coming easily, naturally. "And I'm grateful every day that you were the one who came to restore my apartment. And by extension, my faith that good men exist." They lingered over dessert and coffee, discussing not just the symbolic meaning of the key, but practical considerations about potentially sharing a home, which place they might live in, how to merge their belongings, whether they would eventually want to find a new space that was truly theirs together, rather than one person joining the other's established domain. "No rush on any of this," Andrew reiterated as they left the restaurant hand in hand. "The key is an invitation, not an expectation." "I know," Sophia assured him, squeezing his hand, "and that's exactly why it means so much." As they walked toward the car, Sophia's phone chimed with an email notification. She glanced at it briefly, then stopped in her tracks, a disbelieving laugh escaping her. "What is it?" Andrew asked, concerned by her sudden reaction. "You won't believe this," Sophia said, showing him the screen. "I've been asked to give a keynote speech at the National Business Women's Conference next month. The topic? Rebuilding professional resilience after personal setbacks." "That's incredible," Andrew said, genuine pride evident in his voice. "And perfectly fitting. Your story could help so many women facing similar challenges." "My story," Sophia echoed thoughtfully. "A year ago, I would have done anything to avoid telling it, to pretend none of it had happened. Now I'm being asked to share it as inspiration. That's the definition of transformation," Andrew observed. "Taking what once caused pain and using it to create something meaningful, something that helps others." As they drove back to Sophia's apartment, she found herself mentally composing the speech, thinking of all she had learned through the collapse of her marriage and the rebuilding of her life. She would speak of recognizing red flags, of maintaining financial independence, of the importance of supportive friendships, but she would also speak of forgiveness, not for the benefit of those who had harmed her, but for her own peace of mind, of how understanding the roots of others' destructive behavior could help release the grip of anger and resentment. Andrew walked her to her door, kissing her goodnight with the perfect balance of passion and tenderness that characterized their relationship. "Sleep well," he said. "Call me tomorrow?" "Of course." Sophia touched the key resting against her skin. "And maybe this weekend we could look at how my furniture might fit in your place, just to start thinking about possibilities?" His smile was worth every moment of pain she had endured to reach this point. "I'd like that very much." Inside her apartment, Sophia moved through her evening routine with a sense of profound contentment. She changed into comfortable clothes, made a cup of herbal tea, and settled on her balcony with her laptop to begin drafting notes for her upcoming speech. As she typed, memories surfaced, standing in this same spot a year ago, looking out at the city lights, wondering if she would ever feel whole again. The contrast between then and now was stark, almost difficult to comprehend, not just in her romantic life, but in every aspect of her existence. She had emerged from the crucible of her failed marriage not just intact, but enhanced, more self-aware, more discerning, more confident in her ability to weather whatever storms life might bring. Her phone chimed with a text from Rachel. Andrew just called Michael, sounding ridiculously happy. "Spill," Sophia smiled. Typing back, gave me a key to his place on a necklace. Perfect gentleman. No pressure, just possibility. Thinking about moving in together sometime soon. Rachel's response was immediate and enthusiastic. Yes, so happy for you. See, I told you the universe was saving someone special for you. When's the wedding? Can I be maid of honor again? Slow down, Sophia replied, laughing. One step at a time. But yes, if and when that day comes, you're first on the list. Setting her phone aside, Sophia returned to her speech notes, adding a final thought. The greatest lesson I've learned is that resilience isn't about pretending the damage never happened. It's about acknowledging it, understanding it, and then building something new that incorporates that understanding. Like the Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold, making the restored piece more beautiful, more valuable than the original. Our broken places, once healed, can become our greatest strength. The gold that binds us together, that reminds us of our capacity to endure, to rebuild, to transform destruction into creation. Sophia touched the key at her throat, its weight both delicate and significant. Ahead lay endless possibilities. A deeper relationship with Andrew, continued professional growth, perhaps, someday, the family she had once envisioned with Nathan, but now understood, would be far healthier, far more joyful, with a partner who truly saw and valued her. The past year had taught her that endings could become beginnings, that what seemed like devastation could become the foundation for something better, stronger, truer. She had lost a husband, but found herself. Had lost a home, but created a sanctuary. Had lost illusions, but gained wisdom. Who do you think you are? Diane had once demanded, her voice full of contempt. Now, Sophia had an answer. Not for Diane, but for herself. I am a woman who has been broken and rebuilt herself, stronger at the mended places. I am a professional who has earned every step of her success. I am a partner who knows her worth and chooses connection based on mutual respect, not need or fear. I am someone who understands that true strength lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. I am Sophia Lawrence, and my story is still being written, this time entirely on my own terms. As the city lights twinkled below her balcony, Sophia closed her laptop and simply breathed in the moment, savoring the peace she had fought so hard to achieve. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new growth. But tonight, in this moment, she was exactly where she needed to be, whole, hopeful, and ready for whatever came next. The journey from that terrible Sunday morning, when her world had imploded to this quiet evening of contentment, had been neither straight nor easy. There had been dark days of doubt, of grief, of rage that threatened to consume her. There had been legal battles and property disputes, therapy sessions where she had confronted her own blind spots and patterns. But there had also been moments of unexpected joy, of discovering her own resilience, of deepening friendships and new connections. There had been professional achievements that might never have happened had she remained in the shadow of Nathan's insecurity and Diane's control. There had been the slow, beautiful unfolding of her relationship with Andrew, built on a foundation of mutual respect and genuine partnership rather than need or illusion. Most importantly, there had been the gradual reclaiming of herself, her confidence, her independence, her ability to trust her own judgment again. The key against her skin was not a weight, but a promise, not of possession, but of possibility. She would use it when she was ready, not a moment before, secure in the knowledge that Andrew understood and respected her need to move forward at her own pace. In the meantime, she had a speech to write, a department to lead, a life to continue building on her terms. The woman who had once stood cornered in her own kitchen, hearing herself called worthless by her mother-in-law while her husband said nothing, was gone. Not forgotten, but transformed, her pain alchemized into wisdom, Her wounds healed into scars that told a story of survival and renewal. Sophia Lawrence raised her teacup in a silent toast to herself, to the journey behind her and the path ahead. The bitter taste had become sweet. The broken places had been mended with gold. She was whole again, different but whole, scarred but stronger, and her story was far from over.